showdown in the desert. It turns out the Book of Boba Fett was a story about the deadliest bounty hunter in the galaxy, it's just not Boba Fett. Directed by Dave Filoni, Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger, does a lot of heavy lifting in setting up the final battle for Tatooine's criminal underworld, but it also updates us on Din Djarin, little baby Grogu, and the return of more fan-favorite characters, and we're gonna break all that down, but before we do, we have to warn you, we are about to spoil this whole thing and where we think it's headed, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, or you don't want to hear our wild speculation, now is the time to hop back in your speeder and get the heck out of town. Go on, get... Okay, now that we're past the spoiler warning, let's get to the good stuff. It's this guy, and anybody who watched the Clone Wars knows exactly who this mysterious Duros with the wide brim hat is, and now Cobb Vanth is acquainted with Cad Bane too. You can just let him lie there. We're gonna come back to him in a second, he's not going anywhere. Okay, so remember when Boba Fett was known as the deadliest bounty hunter in the galaxy? Well, it was never true. Cad Bane was always that MF. In fact, Cad Bane is the only Star Wars bounty hunter who isn't totally incompetent most of the time, and that includes Boba Fett. We of course first met Cad Bane in the Clone Wars, where he crossed paths with the Jedi multiple times and fought them to a standstill. We last saw Cad Bane hunting Experimental Clone Force 99 in The Bad Batch Season 1, but we lose track of the character during most of the Imperial era. His appearance here just confirmed that he survived the Galactic Civil War, which isn't surprising given what we know about him. Okay, back to the showdown, which Cobb Vanth absolutely lost. Looks like Vanth took a shot to the shoulder, so he may have survived this, and if he did, it's because Cad Bane wanted him to, and if his shoulder's messed up, luckily there's a pretty good surgeon on Tatooine who can apply some droid parts to your injuries. Just ask Fennec Shand. This all happened because earlier in the episode, Cobb Vanth kills a bunch of Pikes and threatens another not to get caught running spice through Mos Pelgo territory ever again. The Pikes respond by sending Cad Bane to deal with Vanth and send a message to the newly renamed Freetown.
As long as the spice keeps running, everyone will be left alone.
The spice must flow, in other words. Anyway, to paraphrase Jon Favreau's beloved Marvel film Iron Man 2, Boba Fett has the big gun, he is not the big gun. That would be Cad Bane, and now it's clear why the twins pulled out of the conflict in Mos Espa so quickly, because the Pikes have a stone-cold killer on their payroll. Not content with simply sending a message out in Mos Pelgo, the Pikes also treat Garsa Fwip's establishment like Artie Bucco's restaurant. Man, Max Rebo cannot catch a break. Long story short, the Pikes mean business, and if Boba Fett actually wants to be a real deal crime lord on Tatooine, then it's time to put on his big boy armor and disintegrate some fools. But that was far from all that got revealed in this episode, as most of it deals with Din Djarin's check-in on his little buddy Grogu, who's off learning the ways of the Force with Luke Skywalker, someone who's probably pretty unqualified to be teaching him in the first place, which we'll explain in a second, because first, we have to address the fact that Ahsoka and Luke totally already know each other? Well, of course they do. Luke Skywalker's name was known throughout the galaxy after the destruction of both Death Stars, so it makes a lot of sense that Ahsoka Tano would have sought him out at some point. Probably been like, hey, I knew your dad, we go way back. Anyway, we don't know where this academy is actually based. It's not identified in The Last Jedi or in The Rise of Kylo Ren, the Marvel comic that details how Ben Solo wrecks shop after his little disagreement with Uncle Luke. Wherever it is, the school is just now being built by androids, and Grogu is Master Luke's very first student. What better place to train a child to use telekinesis than in a building made of loosely piled rocks? What could go wrong? In any case, Luke isn't so much training Grogu as he's reminding him of stuff that he learned as a baby at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, like when he survived Order 66. Yet another perspective on this major moment on the Star Wars timeline. Most of Star Wars' recent projects have all done this. Jedi Fallen Order, the Clone Wars Season 7, and The Bad Batch all did this too. Grogu survived Order 66 after watching a few Jedi go down at the hands of the 501st Legion, but we still don't know who it was that ultimately rescued him and snuck him out of there before...
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Anyway, Mando comes to visit with the gift that he brought from the armorer, which is a little tiny shirt made of Beskar chainmail forged from the spear that Mando was carrying around. Ahsoka tells Mando that it's probably best if Grogu doesn't see him, as it's going to make his training harder on him, so Mando hangs back, hands off the gift, and bails out to go help Boba Fett win his little gang war. They're probably going to need him if Cad Bane is a part of this. Also, it's probably a good thing that Mando never mentions Boba Fett to Luke. Just saying. Anyway, Luke gives Grogu a choice: accept the Mandalorian's gift and resume his life as a foundling, or accept Yoda's frickin' lightsaber and become a real-life Padawan learner. The episode ends as Grogu's trying to make his choice, but our theory? Grogu's absolutely going to end up with both, so he and Din Djarin can be the ultimate dynamic duo, a couple of Beskar-wearing, lightsaber-wielding scamps tearing around the galaxy in a souped-up N1 starfighter. You can bank on that, and so can Disney, who has some toys to sell. One thing's for sure, we know that Grogu has to leave Luke's academy eventually, because if he doesn't, he'd just get caught up in Ben Solo's temper tantrum, and we can't have that happen to our adorable, most merchandisable new Star Wars star, can we? So far in the future, you might say, but that's only kind of true. That is a ways in the future for the human characters, sure, but not that far for Grogu.
Because, Grogu, a short time for you is a lifetime for someone else.
Grogu is already 50 plus years old here, and he's still a toddler, so fast forward to 34 years after the Battle of Yavin when the temple burns down, Grogu would still be pretty little, and he might still need some training. At the very least, there would be lots of reasons for Grogu to still be hanging around when Luke tries to murder his own nephew in his sleep, unless he leaves or is rescued sometime before that. Speaking of bad decisions made by Luke, can we talk a little about how he shouldn't be the one to train Grogu? His own training was pretty piecemeal at best, so regardless of how adorable he looks with Baby Yoda in a backpack, he probably shouldn't be doing that. If anything, Ahsoka, who's a master-level Force wielder by now, should be training both Grogu and Luke. But then again, she's just a citizen these days, isn't she? And of course, now it's time for Easter eggs. Here we go.
And let's be honest, in Mos Eisley, anything goes.
That sounds like something you'd say about a wretched hive of scum and villainy. If Cad Bane and Boba Fett eventually have a showdown and fight, this would be a payoff to a story that Dave Filoni has been trying to tell since at least 2014. A Bane-Fett showdown was originally supposed to be included in the Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni even showed this story reel of it at Star Wars Celebration 2017, but it obviously never made it into the series. It's probably not a coincidence to see him dusting off this idea for the Book of Boba Fett as he directed this episode. The design of the stone temple looks pretty similar to the ones that Luke's hanging out in Ahch-To in The Last Jedi, and look, I get wanting to have a rustic handmade temple for Jedi training so you can be one with nature or whatever, but if that's the case, isn't it kind of cheating to have an army of droids build it for you? That's a pretty sick hood ornament. The Jawas are of course carrying the skull of the Krayt Dragon that Din Djarin and the gang killed in the Mandalorian Season 2 premiere. Corey Burton is the voice of Cad Bane, and he also provided the voice for the Clone Wars.
I'd be careful where I was sticking my nose if I were you.
And here is a teeny tiny ant-sized Easter egg. One of the stunt performers playing the Jedi who fell at Order 66 is named Scott Lang.
Damn, they find out who you are? Yeah. Baskin Robbins always finds out, bro.
What did you think of the Cad Bane reveal, and what do you think of his live-action look? I think he looks good. And what is Grogu gonna choose, the little sword or the little shirt? Let's hear your best theories in the comments below. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode of Canon Fodder. For more Mandalorians, here's how the Great Purge sequence just set up the Mandalorian Season 3. And as always, don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.